From each happily ever after, every wish upon a star. Let's break down the movies that shaped who we are. From memory lane to now and everything in between. The most famous of films to the ones we've never seen. Decade by decade, all the times we laughed and cried, and with a little pixie dust, they will all take flight. Reliving the feelings, and we're trying our very best. And if they mean the same to you, please be our guest. So hop aboard, we would love to have you as we hang with a certain mouth, the whole gang too. If you love nostalgia stuff, we hope this does the trick. Thanks for joining us as we deep dive the magic.
Hi, and welcome back to the Deep Diving the Magic podcast. I'm KJ.
And I'm Jeffrey. And we are back again with the 39th Disney feature-length film from Christmas Day, December 25th, 1958. It is a film called Tonka. Tonka is a film based on a book called Comanche, the story of America's most heroic horse by David Appel. Would you like to start us off with a quick synopsis or maybe some opening thoughts?
The remarkable and iconic story of a wild colt that changes owners around the time of the Great Sioux War of 1876.
Perfect. That kind of does describe a lot on this. It's not on Disney Plus, but I can assume that if it was on Disney Plus, there would probably be a warning on this film.
I believe we rented this off of Prime Video.
Correct. So, are you ready to unwrap this Christmas present?
No returns.
That's right. No gift receipt. All right. So it starts off with music about Tonka. Tonka the Brave, which plays over the opening credits. It says that the lone survivor of the historic Custer massacre was a horse, and this is his story. We begin with a horse running through a desert terrain and natives on horseback chasing it. We see a boy named White Bull and his friend watching on, wishing they could ride. White Bull decides to go and catch his horse, and to do so, he steals another member of the tribe, Yellow Bull. He steals his rope to use in the attempt.
He borrows
Yellow Bull's rope. And he's able to rope the horse, but he loses grip and loses the horse and the borrowed rope. Which causes him to get scolded after losing the rope and disobeying orders. He gets whipped, as well as ordered to now walk with the women and the dogs. White Bull gets laughed at when they get back to the camp for having to walk, and he runs away from the crowd upset. White Bull is then summoned by the chief, who informs him that in tribal law, there's privileges in rank. So Yellow Bull is a higher rank than White Bull is.
Yeah.
And he lost his rope. And then we also learned that not only did he lose the rope, but he also lost his bow and arrow that was given to him by the chief. So he's no longer trusted or allowed to go hunting. He's basically in trouble. He's scolded.
He has to earn these privileges
He has to
back.
earn the privileges back and earn his rank. But White Bull thinks that Yellow Bull, it's like a game of Clue. White Bull thinks that Yellow Bull wanted him to get punished and wanted him to get in trouble. The next morning, White Bull decides that he's going to go and try to find his lost bow and arrow, which he very anticlimactically and quickly just finds. Like, he just finds it right away. But then, as he's about to head back after finding his stuff, he sees a horse struggling because he's tied up in the rope from earlier. So he sees the same horse.
Mm-hmm.
And as he struggles, he gets more and more tangled.
Mm-hmm.
So of course he rushes down to assist the horse. He's all excited. And he builds like a wall type cage.
Like an
pen.
enclosure.
Yeah. And then frees the horse from the rope. The horse then bucks. Whitebull tries to ride the horse, but the horse bucks him off. Because clearly Whitebull has never seen any previous Disney movie yet, so he knows that horses always do that to these people. For instance, Song of the South, The Greatest, Littlest Outlaw, all these movies they always get bucked off. And then he decides he's gonna go back to camp, but he very idiotically leaves his bow and arrow and rope behind. The thing that he went back to get, he leaves
Well,
behind.
he doesn't want anybody to know he's found these things.
Mhm.
So he like keeps the horse and the bow and arrow and stuff together.
Yeah.
Because he's gonna come back with all of it at once.
Which he then uses as an excuse to go back the next day for the horse. Was his plan.
Well, that was his plan, but he ended up having to leave super early.
In the middle of the night, because he's awoken by a wolf or a coyote, whatever, howling, and he gets nervous. He gets nervous for his trapped horse, so he leaves in the middle of the night to go to, to see his horse. He lights a small fire and he sleeps in the horse entrapment, and then eventually the horse also lays down near the fire. The next morning, White Bull starts calling the horse Tonka, which is, of course, the name of the movie. And he tricks Tonka into eating grass, which causes him to get caught in a rope trap from a tree, which, of course, is the oldest trick in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, the horse has never seen an episode of Scooby-Doo before. So he just tells Tonka the horse to stop fighting him, and they will get along great. But then he's all excited, and they return to camp. But then they see that the camp has been ransacked, and all the people are gone.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see military troops waving the American flag. They arrive by horseback.
I don't think that it had been ransacked.
Okay.
They had moved and just basically left the skeletons of their teepees. It wasn't really technically ransacked. They were moving.
On their own, or they were moving because of the military troops?
I'm pretty sure they were moving on their own.
So they were just going to leave White Bull behind?
I guess. And then he ended up telling them about the soldiers that were going to come and get them. And they acted like they didn't know.
I guess. But speaking of the soldiers, they arrive waving the American flag. They arrive on horseback. So then White Bull hides, but he ends up getting caught come nightfall. But he is able to steal one of the horses and flee.
Mm-hmm.
It was a white horse.
Mm-hmm.
So then he takes the white horse and he rides down to Tonka's pen,
Mm-hmm.
entrapment, and he introduces the two horses together. And he says that Tonka will soon learn that the woman is always the chief of the two horses. And then White Bull uses grass to attempt to make the two horses get along.
Well, he's just showing Tonka that you can come over here and eat out of my hand because she's eating out of my hand. I think he's basically using the other horse to show that this is how I will treat you too. Like you're not going to be hurt.
Tenderly, yeah.
Yeah.
So then he is able to then take Tonka for a ride.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided that they're going to go on a hunt to kill a buffalo, which I was like, well, geez. But then the military men catch him, and they catch up to them and they chase him because they claim that Tonka is one of their horses,
Mm-hmm.
so they're trying to catch Tonka and White Um, but then they end up pausing the chase to just watch White and Tonka. One of them says that that horse runs like a scared Comanche with a load of buckshot in its britches. What do you think that means? I guess not.
I think it means that it's basically running as fast as it can because it's being shot at.
Buckshot. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
So then White Bull finally, um, with the two horses and his bow and arrow and the rope, arrive at the tribe's new camp location. And he's
Because he just knows where to go.
it's true.
They weren't leaving him. They went to their next place and he knew where it was.
I guess. I guess.
That's how it works in the movies. You just know where your family's gonna move to when they leave you in the middle of the night.
It's true. So then he's back to prove to the chief that he can be trusted.
Yeah.
He returns Yellow Bull his rope, and they name the white horse Prairie Bird
After his mother.
after his mother. He the tribe doesn't really believe him, but he's able to prove the story to him by showing one of the soldiers' swords, and he gives it to the chief, and then in return he gets a talisman. That's how you say that, right? Talisman. He gets a talisman to protect from evil spirits, and his blessing to be able to go on hunts and battles again. So he's earned the trust. And then he starts talking about Tonka, the greatest horse in all of the Dakotas, which I thought was funny because if you remember back in the Song of the South, they kept saying that it was like the United States of Georgia. This is the greatest. This is the land of the Dakotas. Um, everybody's proud of him, including his mother, except for Yellow Bull, who angrily wishes to speak to White Bull and says that he will be taking Tonka. And even though White Bull disagrees, there's privilege in rank, so only the chief can decide, and the chief decides that Yellow Bull can have the horse. Anything to add on that?
It's just like the uncle on the
It's true. Um,
other movie. It's just like this person just needs to be shot.
jeez. Um, so
This is why I'm not a character in movies. I'll just go around shooting people I don't like, I guess.
I mean,
He's being mean.
yes. He's proven his rank. So
He's not proving his rank. He's just
throwing it in his face.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he gets Tonka, but Tonka instantly starts acting up to Yellow Bull. They end up wrestling to subdue the horse. White Bull threatens to kill Yellow Bull, like my friend over here. But his mother tells him that he's foolish.
you should have.
But then White Bull has a hard time with all the abuse that his beloved horse is getting. So come nightfall, he decides that he's going to free Tonka and send him back to his own kind, where he'll be safe from his cousin's abuse. And he gives the horse the talisman to protect him.
Yeah, he ties it in his mane. It really bothers me that they never touch on how ticked off the cousin's gonna be that his horse is gone. Like they never touched on it.
Rank.
Well, I know it's rank, but they never touched on like any punishment or anything that he got after that.
Yeah.
Because surely they would have had to known who did it.
Oh, I get what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. Sorry, I was thinking of a different part, but yeah. Um,
So you said he pulls his rank, takes your horse, mistreats it in front of you, doing all these terrible things, deserves to be shot. Nobody's shooting him, but you're gonna sneak in and set the horse free because you don't like the way that it's being treated, and it never touches on your punishment.
Well, instead of touching on that, we end up seeing that Tonka runs into a whole group of like cowboys, who are like kind of herding other horses. Um,
They're
they're
basically catching wild horses to sell.
Yep.
And he runs into like a new herd of um like wild horses.
Mhm. And one of the cowboys says that he will bring them $90 in 1876. So that's $2,648 today. The military cavalry is then looking at the horses that were obtained, and they see men trying to hold down Tonka, and they recognize him from when they chased White Bull. Uh, the military leader, I didn't catch his name, is able to calm Tonka and decides to buy Tonka for his own, and decides to name him Comanche, which was actually the name of the film when they used it for the Wonderful World of Disney TV show.
I guess his name is Colonel Miles Koff.
Okay. Colonel Miles. So he names him Comanche, which again was when they showed this on TV, the film was called Comanche.
Yeah.
And they're gonna continue, and he decides that he's gonna continue to train Comanche gently because you can tell that he's a gentle horse.
Hmm.
And then we found out that he actually spent $100 on Comanche, which is $2,945 today.
That's pretty cheap for a horse.
It is, but it also means that $10 back then is $300 today. So,
And we complain about gas prices.
um, so, uh, the tribe is then shown that they're meeting and they're discussing how they have to run the white men off their lands. So clearly something is going on, and they send out kind of like different scouting parties. And White Bull is gone out on a scouting party, um, to kind of count soldiers. But then on the scouting party, White Bull sees his horse Tonka with the military, and he decides that he's going to tell the group that come nightfall they're going to get closer, get a closer look. Clearly, it's just a plot because he wants to see his horse.
Yeah.
We then meet General Cluster. I'm sorry, General Custer. I apologize.
Cluster.
Yeah,
Cluster.
General Custer, who clearly has something against First Nation people,
Yeah.
which we know from history. But then nightfall comes, and White Bull and his small gang of scouts sneak closer, and White Bull is able to scale the walls of the fort, and he's going to let the other scouts know
How many people there are
how many soldiers there is.
by counting their horses. Because
Yeah.
they were like, well, you can't count sleeping soldiers. And he's like, no, but I can count their horses.
Yep, and he's going to give them, I forgot, it was like small rock for this many, bigger rock for this many.
Yeah.
Um,
If I can't come back, over the wall, I will throw a small rock if it's
X
not a
amount.
mini,
Yeah.
and then if it's a lot, I'll throw a large rock.
Correct. But then while inside, White Bull then does find Tonka, but notices that Tonka has been hurt. His leg is hurt,
Mhm.
and says that the medicine that he's getting is not as good as the medicine that White Bull can give him.
Yeah.
So he makes his own medicine, which we end up finding is mud, but he makes his own medicine to draw the poison out, which causes him to get caught. Because Comanche's new owner, I'm sorry, Colonel Miles,
Yeah, Miles cough.
um, Colonel Cough, sees the mud on the horse's leg and then catches White Bull.
Because his hand's just ironically just
Yeah.
technically it was his hand that got him caught.
Yeah. So he gets interrogated because of what's going on. But then they end up discussing the training of the horse, saying he's just there for the horse.
Yeah.
He's not even there to steal him back, because if he was to steal him back, Yellow Bull would just get him back, and that's not what he wanted. So then Colonel Koff promises that White Bull will never have any harm, and then White Bull then does sneakily throw a rock over the wall to warn his party about the number of soldiers.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a big rock or a small rock, whatever.
But the
Um,
colonel did see it because he said,
yeah,
I probably don't want to know
I
what you
don't want to
told
know
them.
why you threw that. Um, uh, so then Custer is interrogating
So
Whipple.
funny looking. Sorry, I
Yeah.
just have to say.
Um, maybe that's just how they portray famous U.S. leaders because
With curly blonde hair,
because
like bleach
but
blonde
do you
hair,
remember in like
curly.
the first Davy Crockett film that we watched when Jackson just looked like he was like a wax figure of himself the whole time?
And it didn't look this funny.
So
Anyway.
so Custer is interrogating White Bull, and he states, White Bull says that he was only coming for his horse,
Hmm.
but Custer then sends a message to the chief that if he doesn't return to the reservation in peace, the military will burn his people. As White Bull is released. Did you catch any of that scene than I did, or no? Okay.
Mm-mm.
Um, but then as he's leaving, Comanche looks at White Bull, but he follows the military soldier, Colonel Koff, back into the fort. And then it cuts to like a montage type deal of like reservations and camps being burned, and then we see the military marching in what appears to be victory. So I don't know if that means that they didn't return to their reservations or what happened, but it instantly just cuts to things being burnt. And then we see the military discussing the Battle of Bighorn, like they're planning their attack on Bighorn. Did you catch anything else from that I might have missed? It kind of just cuts to like things getting burnt.
No, it kind of was rapid fire
Yeah,
after
but like
this.
abrupt, yeah. Uh, the the Colonel Koff tries telling Custer that some tribes are at peace, but Custer doesn't seem to care, and he doesn't see a way to tell any of them apart. Custer just wants to disobey any orders and attack them unexpectedly, without giving up his approach. But then he also thinks that he might be being tracked, so they have to act swiftly. But then he was correct because they are being attacked. Well, they've lost the element of surprise because White Bull and a few of his men from his tribe end up approaching the soldiers, and then this causes an ambush and a gunfight. And I wrote that Disney movies have come a long way, no longer showing this much bloody battle and gore because there's a lot of gore that is, you know, um, Bighorn has a reputation, and they show the reputation here.
Hmm.
Um, and just to prove that, um, Captain Koff or Colonel Koff gets shot. White Bull gets shot. His partner and friend gets hit with a bow and arrow. But as he's fading, he does say that White Bull should finally earn a feather before he dies. Comanche slash Tonka gets hit with a bow and arrow. Custer gets killed. Um, the Colonel Koff ends up getting taken down, shot at close range twice by who I believe was Yellow Bull, because you pointed that out, by Yellow Bull, which causes him to pass away. But then Tonka attacks Yellow Bull to take him out.
Revenge!
So
Somebody finally kills him.
um, so then the
It's the
battle,
horse. Who saw that
it
coming?
makes sense,
Anyway.
right? Um, excuse me. The battle winds down, and then it's just a sea of carnage,
Yeah.
literally carnage. White Bull struggles to get up, and he kind of sees all the despair and death.
Hmm.
And then he notices a fallen Tonka, who he then crawls over to comfort.
Yeah. And did you notice he still had the talisman in his mane?
I mean, they said they were going to treat him gently, so.
Yeah, but like,
And to be fair, it helped.
yeah, the colonel didn't cut it out. He
Yep.
just left it there. I thought that was cool.
So White Bull crawls over to comfort
Tonka.
Tonka. He pulls a piece out of his mane, and then Tonka does open his eyes. So
Yeah, it probably woke him up.
that's right.
Jerked his hair.
So Tonka opens his eyes, and then the military cavalry arrives to see that Custer didn't follow orders, to wait for them or their signal, and they assess the unbelievable amounts of damage and bodies.
Yeah.
But they see Tonka and Comanche stand up, and they decide that they're going to put the horse out of his misery because it's clearly in rough shape. But a very injured White Bull stands up for the horse to kill him instead, which they were going to do because they didn't know what was going on. But then right before shooting him, they remember that this was the boy that they questioned in the fort and to not hurt him.
Yeah.
So that was a good. The talisman came through on that one.
Even though it's laying somewhere on the ground
Yeah.
at this point.
So, and then the next scene. So kind of like in that movie, The Great Locomotive Chase that we watched X amount of weeks ago, where like it ends with like all like the damage and everything, and then it instantly cuts to like people being celebrated.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happens here. So in the next scene, they're celebrating all the dead, and they announce that Comanche slash Tonka is the only surviving member of the U.S. military from the battle, and he will be retired and never ridden in battle again.
Never ridden again, actually.
Never ridden again. And then we see Whipple dressed in U.S. military clothes looking over Tonka. Good.
Actually, he was only wearing like U.S. military like top. Like
Yeah.
he still had his like normal pants on.
Yeah, he was wearing like a military jacket and like hat and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's looking over Tonka. But then as the end credits roll, we hear the Tonka song again and we see Whipple riding Tonka.
Yeah, because the higher up told White Bull, he's like, and well, you know, he's gonna need to be ridden because he gave him an extra snack, and then White Bull said, well, you shouldn't do that because you're gonna make him fat. And then he was like, well, he's gonna need to be ridden for exercise, and he's like, but they just said he could never be ridden again, and they're like, well, but they don't know what he actually needs like we do. And then you see him riding him again.
So yeah.
It's a decent movie.
Yeah, what did you rate it?
I didn't like it that great. Like as some of the other movies. Story-wise, it wasn't terrible, I guess,
It was
but
different.
it was definitely different.
It wasn't cut and paste
It
like
was-
some of the other ones, yeah.
Yeah, and it was better than some of the other ones, but it still wasn't one of my favorites. I gave it a 6. IMDb only gave it a 6.2, so I mean it was kind of not that high.
Yeah.
Um,
Does it make your list?
no. Doesn't make my list, but I mean it was better than some of the other movies that we've watched, but I don't know. It definitely wasn't one of my favorites. I guess maybe it was the mistreatment of Tonka I wasn't a fan of, but
He gets his revenge.
he does. I'm glad he killed that guy.
So what is your
I would have shot him and ended this whole thing a lot sooner, but not the horse, the guy.
You're gonna get arrested here.
He's already dead.
The movie came out
Anyway.
30 years before you were born. So,
Exactly.
what is your list upon a star?
I'm gonna go back in time. All right, so my list upon a star is Dumbo, Lady and the Tramp, The Three Caballeros, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, Fantasia, Saludos Amigos, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Johnny Tremaine, and Bambi.
And my list is also not changing. My list here is Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, Pinocchio, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Lady and the Tramp, The Three Caballeros, Cinderella, Dumbo, and Johnny Tremaine. So, yeah, that was definitely a Christmas feel-good,
Oh yeah, I forgot that came on.
Christmas feel-good film filled with carnage and death.
Ah,
Um,
what else spells Christmas like death?
I mean, people think that Die Hard's a Christmas movie, so I guess
You know, I have never seen Die Hard.
that's not a Disney feature-length film, so it won't be reviewed on this. So thank you all for joining us on this adventure. Our next film not only brings us to the final year of the 1950s, but it is also our 40th film. And it is the return of an animated Disney princess classic
Mm.
that I am very excited to dive into. And that film, of course, was released 1 month from almost 1 month to the day from this one, but it is the next year, and that is Sleeping Beauty.
She's way better than Cinderella.
Can you tell someone's excited? But again, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
And send us a message, deepdiveinthemagicpod@gmail.com. Let us know how you felt about Tonka, if you've ever even seen Tonka before.
I've never even heard of it until this, but I'm definitely glad I watched it.
Yeah, I mean, we got it. So
Yeah, for sure.
another Christmas film. We
It
should
had
have.
a better outcome than the first one.
I mean, the animal survived. So,
Exactly.
but thank you as always, and we look forward to talking to you next time.
Thanks for deep diving magic.
Bye.
Bye.